You know how like an act. Hey, there's a conflict here, I'm removing myself.
Aren't they're also redoing that?
Talk about what's going on.
Going on.
Full house today.
Hey, we might have an opportunity to work with the administration on some stuff.
I can, seeing as everybody's here, it's 4 o'clock, call the finance committee to order. Sharon, if you'd like to proceed with the roll call.
Mr. Bale,
Here.
Mr. Drexel,
Here.
Mr. Horton,
Here.
Mrs. Showerman here, Mr. Scatella,
Here.
Mr. Winarski,
Here.
Chairman Copeland.
Here. All right, starting off, we got a couple. Ordinance number 17, we have the table, the GIS funding. The transfer from planning to GIS at $50,000. Saw that we got an email from the GIS department explaining what that was and how it was allocated for in their budget. Is anybody speaking to that at all?
This is just a transfer.
Item number. Well,
Are we untabling?
I'll speak to that. I mean, because I was the one that suggested tabling that. We're aware of the executive refusing to certify the wage increase that council asked for. Karen had put together some figures. In 2022, we had $1 million of outside budgetary increases to wages. I forget how much it was in 2023, 300 some thousand dollars.
295,000.
And, you know, I'm familiar that in the past that it's been when there's asking for cuts, council, you know, leads by the same cuts here first and making sure that we don't have significant increases over time. And I think over at a certain point, we need to stand by our staff and ask for increases when needed. So it's my position, and I would not want to table that, and I would even go further and say restrict items from hitting the budget. Or from hitting the finance agenda or tabling in the future. I mean, I think that's pretty important to most of us to get that done. I'm not sure why when we've had $1 million of increases in the past, that we're fighting over 14 grand. That's not right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I don't see, there's obviously accusing the administration of, holding up funds or whatever, and then we're gonna do the same thing. When I've heard us say that we're gonna be better, we should be concerned about doing the right thing, regardless of what it means for anything else, and not associated with another topic. I mean, this money was already budgeted. It's just a transfer. It's in the budget. It's depriving the county of a service, which is what we provide. So I don't want to see a quid pro quo. I don't like the fact of holding it hostage or anything hostage. I think we should be voting things up or down based on their merit. And if this is something that we know this is vital, that's why we formed it, vital to what the county does, attracting business, it's taxpayers, it's the whole picture. So to me, I don't know, I have a problem with, again, if you don't like the actual subject, if you're against the GIS, fine, vote it down, or if you need more information, table it, but I think we have all the information we need. It's a worthwhile thing, it's essential for the county, so that's my standpoint.
If something is a priority for you as a matter of policy, and imagine a scenario where the executive refuses to certify, what tools do you see at your disposal in order to drive people to the table to compromise and
I don't like to do that. I don't want to hold taxpayers and the services that we provide hostage in that case. And I don't vote that way. I don't vote to hold up. I don't have an agenda when it comes to it. I look at the topic and I vote on it based on the merits of what it is. I don't do it because of something else I want or something else that's going to happen down the road. And it's just how I view it.
I think in a divided government such as we see at the state, two different parties with different spending priorities, and they've got to pass a budget, right? And so they have compromised. They wheel and deal back and forth on their budgetary items that they care deeply about. And it's not a tit for tat. It's the nature of democracy to have different sides with different positions to say, I want A, other side says, I want B, well, maybe we both settle for C. And the general consensus, the general population ends up better for that no one side has their only winning proposal, but a proposal that meets the needs of multiple people.
Understand?
And I'm just not sure what bargaining chips we have, sure.
I'm gonna agree with Chairman Bale as well, because this isn't money that we're taking from the county, it's already there, it's just moving it, and the taxpayers do use this, in townships and municipalities use the GIS all the time. And I'm going to agree with them, so then
Is our,
agree to disagree.
is our, clerk's office not providing services to the public?
I'm not gonna deny that, but I don't see holding up one for the other. Like I said, I vote on each thing based on its own merits, and that's just the way I feel about it. So I'm not gonna.
Mr. Chair. And I understand what you guys are saying. With all due respect, with what we want to do in this office, and it passes, and the money isn't released, give me an idea how we get it released. We're being held hostage, no, honestly. DEI is being held hostage. There's since December, since 2022, the DA's office is being held hostage. And I asked for some verification, Paul, and evidently you don't know how to get a hold of me, or you don't have the answer, or you're not allowed to get a hold. And there sits Joe. Nobody answers questions to us. I asked you that situation with the DA's office and no response.
Well, I talked to the DA's office about it. So they're doing what they need to do.
So they're getting their money.
It's not in the budget at this moment in time.
Was it not in the budget?
It was in the budget a couple of years ago, and then council put together the ad hoc committee, which then kind of voided what was going on at that time. So when the ad hoc committee reformed, came back in play, that money was not put into a budget.
And that
That's my understanding.
All too familiar with the work of the ad hoc committee. It left a lot of things to be desired, and that's why the $5 million municipality transformational grants that the fifth floor has the luxury of doling out, like walking around, but they exist because that committee didn't do the work that it should have done. But I want to say something too, and I respect Charlie and everybody else. GIS is important. It's vital, as you say. I don't think it's any more vital than people getting shelter or getting housing. Say quality affordable housing or staying in their homes. DEIC, we felt that it was so vital. Just to put a little inch off of 224 years of injustice, and I think that's pretty vital to the economic success of our county. And so I don't dispute with you what you're saying. But we are being held hostage, and we don't have leverage. This is the leverage we have. It's kind of government. I'm going to have to agree with my colleague, Councilman Colton.
Little something I picked up from CCAP, I attended a learning session about 1620 county code state that delegates authorities for grow offices for hiring, supervising, and firing their employees. And in other counties where they do not have home rule charter, it is a constant point of contention as to how is it that somebody can hire, fire, and supervise an employee, but not set their wage, not set their budget. And that there's a long, long list of litigation that's been back and forth, establishing a process to how that works. And that the row office is supposed to be consulted in that budgetary process to say, this is our needs and our concerns. And commissioners in other counties can actually, just completely dismiss and pass a budget, no matter what they want to do. And in some cases, row offices have sued to say we were consulted but not listened to, and guess who won? The row office. And so we are in a kind of unique position that we do not have any state 1620 rights as a row office, even though in a way, we're kind of analogous to that, with division of responsibility, that we hire, supervise, and fire our own employees. And I think there should be the same diligence given to us as given to many of the other row offices. And when we're passing increases, whether it's, but that's actually not a row office, I was thinking about that. Public defender, but I mean, our ability to retain an employee is, you know, it's our responsibility to do that. And I don't see why, it needs to become a point of contention. That's what it really drives me wild. Chris came in the last finance meeting and those uncertain terms, we're steadfast against this. We do not approve of this, right? And I just think that there should have been a conversation had well before the finance meeting the last time. Plenty of opportunity to have had those conversations between Thursday when it was draft agenda and Friday when the agenda went out, to have those conversations rather than just in this room. And the unwillingness to hear us and hear our need and concern. What response do I have other than to have a deaf ear to their concern?
Someone have said that that conversation should have taken place during budget time, because we've heard that year in and year out. So there can't be a duplicate you can't have a different standard. It needs to be fair and even across the board. So what we say and what we expect from other people to bring in front of council, we should be held to the same standard is my only thing. So I don't, we do that. And we have that right to, and it's nothing against the person in question. We're talking about a position, not a person, because we all think that, geez, we know, lots of work and what's on there. I'm just saying that we can't hold everybody else to a different standard and say, you should have come in at budget time and you should have proposed this during the budget. And now you're coming to us with a, supplemental appropriation, or coming to us with these pay concerns. We don't take it lightly. We don't take it kindly. We don't like to have that. We do the budget when we do it, and we like to see that carried on. We want to see the forethought. We want to see them thinking ahead and do it at budget time. So it's just, there's many things back and forth that are uneven, and I get it. And we are at a somewhat of an impasse because of the way the administration, the council broke down, an idea and thought. But I like fair and even across the board, and that's just the way I've done it.
I like fair and even across the board as well. And to your point again, this stuff should have been done at budget time, yet we just came and approved something for the courts, for their clerk. Oh, this was left out at budget time. Yet 2 weeks after we did budget, which should have been at budget time, we come in with a 1.6 or $1.3 million ask for we're moving money all over the place. All that should have been done at budget time. It's hard to do it when you're not giving a balanced budget as required by law. And they can say, well, we gave you a balanced budget, but you don't get union contracts to come down 2 weeks and you haven't anticipated or planned for. You come down with and say, oh yeah, we forgot this. And we said, those type of things we're locked into. But we've given raises this year since budget. And so all your points are well taken, but you all have to be playing by the same rules, and clearly we're not.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Well, what Chairman Copeland said earlier, there was $1 million last year in appropriations done, so those weren't done in budget time. There was almost 300,000 the year before, and those weren't done in budget time. So I feel like this is a level playing field. It seems to be that we've established that the rule is whenever you want to bring something forward, whether it's out of budget or in the middle of the year, or oops, I forgot it. All of those things seem to have been allowed, so I would, you know, as a new person, I'm first following the flow that was left before me, so. I don't understand how, I mean. Yeah, it wasn't done in budget time, neither was you understand 1.6 million, it's almost like $4 or $5 million that we got dropped in our lap.
Oh, yeah, that was just the
$14,000.
one, that was just the one appropriation, I'm sorry. God.
No, I
Well, there are
understand that.
several like that, you're correct.
So, I mean. What numbers are real, what is the real path that we're supposed to follow here? Cause it seems like. We can do whatever we want, no matter what the rules are, so. And that's,
And I would add one other thing, when we'd had this conversation prior, when we talked about having the library director position, asking for a larger amount outside the budget, and my concerns around that. And that's why I suggested a compromise position of, we're not going to give everything. But we'll meet halfway, and in a way, that's a compromise, the concerns of council members and of the administration to acknowledge that this position is likely underpaid, to be able to go out and recruit people, okay? We're uncomfortable with being way outside of the scope of the budget, and that was a position where there was a conversation had and a different number put forward as a compromise between the two.
And I think it was a good compromise.
And so that is the example of the way government should work, where I want X, I want Y, but we're gonna have to meet somewhere in the middle. And even this position is in itself already. The ordinance says it is on our agenda, the amount was a compromise. It was less than what we had originally talked about. And it has too often been a strategy of the executive to just outright say, I am not going to allow this will not move forward. And then the council will just say, well, I guess we're powerless to do anything. Like, we don't rule by fiat here. This is negotiation and compromise. And I would add, on this particular agenda item, $50,000, I forget exact numbers, forgive me if I'm off. I think 12,000 allocate, no, maybe it was 1,200. A large amount allocated towards travel, a large amount allocated towards professional fees. Not just the software that has been put forward as part of the reason for this ordinance. My initial impulse for this was to amend it and strike all items except for the software expense that had been put forward. My position right now for having it being tabled is a compromise position. I've suggested to the administration that I would release that unmolested in any way, just pass it. Because my first inclination is to say, no. Let's live in our budget, let's not add dollars to travel, let's not add dollars to professional fees. My initial part of me wants to untable it and say no. Bring it back in 6 months. So I'm not trying to be completely obstructionist. If I was, just as I suggested to Joe, I would whip the most and turn it down. If I was truly being obstructionist, I'm willing to untable that as soon as we get certification, which Joe knows because I emailed him that exact content. But I don't mean, we don't want to have a 2-hour finance meeting. Chris's wife will kill us, I think.
yeah.
Moving on to item number 2. 2024 Children and Youth Services Fund budget revised expenditures transfer $30,000 due to court ordered placements. I think we're all good on that. Ordinance number 24/7, 2024 general fund budget supplemental appropriation of 14,000. Oh, that's the one we just beat to death. Anyone want to add anything? Tom, did you have any consideration on the certification of that?
The certification of the funds for number three.
Where does that put us in a legal position? If we were to put it up for a vote,
Well, there hasn't been, it's premature, whether the county executive is gonna certify it.
sure,
I mean, most of the time, I mean, obviously, when the executive asks council to put an ordinance on the agenda, he certified the funds because he wants it. So he's going to accommodate any kind of request with a certification of funds. But not only that, that's important under the home rule charter. Because without the certification, as you found out earlier this year, the administration, if they refuse to certify the funds for certain things, such as the homeless and the DEI issues, council doesn't have much to say. But in this particular instance, this is on the agenda and council put it on the agenda. So it's not going to take it off the agenda simply because council heard through the rumor mill that the executive isn't going to certify it. So yes, council votes on this. And then you will learn whether the executive is going to certify it. He may very well certify it.
you wanted to read that section on there?
Yeah, I do, just under the finance director's responsibilities. Director of Finance,
Well, yeah,
under item D.
well, again, council is not a department of county government. And there's a whole, the way county administration is supposed to go through increasing wages, they seldom have.
Okay,
They've just asked for increases, and they're not supposed to do that. They're first supposed to put together why the particular employee is deserving of a pay increase by describing what that employee has done to deserve it. It's a merit-based increase. But for the past couple of years, the administration has, for the most part, bypassed that process and just asked for increased wages for the employees. And that's not just, it came at a time when the last few years since the pandemic, nobody wanted to work. And the idea was that the employees had it all over the employers. So they didn't want to work, and if they did work, they wanted raises. So the county pretty much had to follow suit too. So the administration kept coming across, or coming down here in front of council with one employee raise after another. But technically did not follow the personnel code in order to do that. In this case, with our employee, county council is the department. They're not a department under county government. And so it's county council that has the ultimate authority to approve of the wages of its employees, even though the employees are subject to the same requirements under the personnel code as administrative employees.
okay. Under the finance director's responsibilities, I'll read 5 and 6. Under D. Under 5, verify the appropriation, allotment, and availability of funds for all bills, claims, and demands made to the county executive, that there is a sufficient unencumbered balance in the allotment of appropriation, and that sufficient funds therefrom are available to cover the claim concerned. That's 5. And number 6, each month, which is what I claim happens here. Each month, every month, not some months. Each month, submit to the county executive and council a statement of the revenues and expenditures for the preceding month and for the fiscal year up to and including the preceding month. And the statement shall be sufficiently detailed as to appropriations allotments and funds to show the exact financial condition of the county and of each of its boards, commissions, departments, offices, and agencies. And so, yeah, I maintain that when he, at the end of this meeting, and he reads that statement, because what other time do we get a statement from him? What other time do we get that report from him? Except for here, right? I mean, I'm asking. Have you gotten any other thing from him? Because I haven't in 10 years.
We do receive, emails from the finance department,
I do, but not this. But you don't receive this. And you don't have access to FMS, which is really the bigger issue. And so it's not, enough just that they certify the funds, because it goes over further in there and it talks about who can release the funds. But as far as, certifying, as far as you telling us exactly, I mean, I didn't, they said exactly what's unencumbered, what's encumbered, what appropriations, and he'll read it today. He'll say, should all the ordinances and resolutions be adopted, we'll have funds in the amount of 29-something million dollars, which is in excess of 2 months general fund of what's we require. Is there another document that you certify to us under item 6 in this thing? Or if it isn't done, when will it and can it be done? Because it's clearly a duty. Question? That's my answer. And that's why we're here. Yeah, I'm not the Mr. Chair.
oh, yes,
I was just gonna say that what Paul does tell us what's in the general fund. And that is his job, is to tell us what's in the general fund. He doesn't come and report on ARPA money. And it's a whole different bucket.
I'll read it again, Ellen, because I think you must have missed it. Because I don't think anywhere in there that mentioned ARPA funds. I
Correct.
think I just mentioned,
Correct.
although that would be inclusive. And it says each month, submit to the county executive and council a statement of all the revenues and expenditures for the preceding month and for the fiscal year up to and including the preceding month. And that statement shall be sufficiently detailed as to appropriations, allotments, and funds to show the exact financial condition of the county and of each of its boards, commissions, departments, offices, and agencies. It doesn't say he could or he should. It says he must. And I'm submitting to you for argument, as I've submitted at the last few meetings, that in fact is the certification, and what the county executive does is perfunctory in its position, and that he should release the funds. And the part that I won't bore you with is when it talks about who can release the funds. It only wants to release the funds, and that has nothing to do with certification. The release of funds can only come from the finance director or the county executive or his representative, but it has nothing to do with the certification. The bottom line is, every month, he's supposed to give us an exact account of everything, saying that, yeah, we got it or we don't. And unless there's another process that takes place that I'm not aware about, then that takes place here. And the county executive's job is perfunctory, and he should just be a signatory on it. It's not a choice of whether he wants to do it. When do you get a choice? Only time you get a choice of whether or not to enforce an ordinance is if you veto it. And that we all know that passed by a supermajority. Yes,
I think that we've gone through that topic quite heavily.
Mr. Chair, one more thing, going back to the ordinance for reclassifying council's deputy director and that salary. There's a distinction between, as I tried to explain, that being a department within county government and then being county council. Obviously completely different. We're paying our employees out of our own budget. It's a county budget, county council budget. He doesn't have to tell us what money's available in that budget. We already know. And, you know, you could even say that he doesn't have to certify that the funds are there because council certifies the funds. Council is the certifying body when it comes to items in its budget. And those items, by the way, were passed during the budget last year for this year. And they're available at council's disposal at any time for any of the purposes outlined in that budget.
I think the distinction though is this particular ordinance is taking from the general fund. The balance, fund balance.
For the deputy
Versus-
director?
For the deputy director is an allocation from the fund balance. If we were to say we have unspent line items within our own budget and we have those funds available to us in our own budget without changing the face value of that budget, I would say that would be true. But
Okay,
this is taking from the fund balance. In which case, I hate to argue against my position, but we would need certification in that case, I would think.
no,
If we were to go the way that council has suggested, you could do that up to 10%. You cannot exceed 10% in-house budgetary transfer.
yeah,
Which would be 30 grand or.
but anyway, your point is well taken. If it's coming from the general fund, then you have that issue like that.
Moving on to some of the less controversial items, we have, general fund budget supplemental appropriation of 20,774 for state homeland security grant in the DA's office.
Yes, I
Sure.
can talk on that. Our office is a member of the Northwestern NPA Emergency Response Group, which was known as the Federal Terrorism Task Force in the past. And that group receives a state homeland security grant every year. This past year, I think it was $301,000, and it goes out to various groups, including like fire departments, but some is earmarked for our office because we oversee the cyber crime, the cybersecurity. So we were notified on March 18th, that's why it wasn't last year, that this money was allocated for training for our office. So it's fully reimbursable, no cost to the county. And what we did was, we requested that both county IT and the department be included in future allocations, just because of the current climate of ransomware and all these different scams that are going on and intrusions. And so we're gonna try to provide them some of the training that our folks are actually receiving. This is like expert level training. The one course is required for us to maintain our certification. So this was a good way for us to use the money. Otherwise, we would have to find the money in our own budget. There's gonna be more money coming. We just don't know when and how much.
And then, I think it might be appropriate to discuss items 5 through 8 as a whole, unless you have other concerns, John. You have anything to discuss about those grants?
Supplemental revenue, our district operates on a fiscal calendar as opposed to a yearly calendar. This is just funds that were between July and December of 2023 that are going to be added to this budget.
Concerns there, guys? And then, we have a repository sale sold to someone local. Familiar last name. Paul, you got the,
Franklin Township, I think everybody looked at the handout document, it's some land out that way that the people want to take over, and they want to start fixing it up and doing some things with it. They're not really sure exactly what at this moment in time. created a note, eventually recycling. To redevelop the land where it had been years ago and they want to put it together.
That's it. And, number 10 is your show.
So if all the ordinances pass, the estimated general fund unassigned fund balance will be $47 million. 8,243, and that's 24,686,370 above what's needed for 2 months of expenditures and transfers.
Before we hand it off, just thought I should bring the subject up. Various people in the community have been reaching out to me wondering if, we are looking to have a veto override vote. My opinion on the topic is probably not terribly popular. It's been something that we've discussed at great length through very many meetings and had a lot of community input. I feel at this point, most people's positions are firm. Not likely to change. But I would suggest that if we're going to discuss it, we would discuss it at this point. As to whether we would like to entertain that vote. I'm not calling for one, but if another member wanted to pursue that, I would not obstruct that.
What is the question?
What's that?
What is the question?
If there is an appetite to have to hold a veto override vote.
So it's not a question of appetite. I mean, you have to have a veto override vote.
There has to be a vote to override the veto.
Yes.
And
What, may I ask why? I'm just curious.
Because, so the council could override it.
but if there's not an appetite from council.
Well, we don't go on appetites, and why would we go on appetite? I mean, there's people out there, whether you like them or not, that have been bugged about this, going back to October. You take it this far, and council takes it this far, and then the administration decides to veto it, and council says, okay, I give up. What kind of a council is that? And so
this
how does that leave these people? And how does it leave the argument of council as if they never, as if it was a done deal 6 months ago, because council never had 5 votes?
So this is a position
Legally,
of,
it's not legally. We don't have to legally though. I'm just clearing that up.
Well, you could lose now
Yes.
by not having it.
Okay.
That's right.
Right.
But if there's a majority on council that believe that the lease should be rescinded, well, then that majority should express
I
itself.
understand that.
this is
From
a,
a legal standpoint, we don't have to do that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
But if 2 or more members of council want to, then you do
I
have,
understand.
Well, even one.
That's fine.
any
even
member,
one actually.
Just one.
That's fine.
which is why I stated that I would not be. You guys know my position. I was at the meeting where, the lease was being voted on. I was really distraught that there was not a table at the time. I felt like there was more than sufficient community input at the single meeting that would have justified giving some more time. I attended various protests. As not a council member, but as a concerned citizen that cared about the issue. I've met with various people, like if there's anyone that has had a firm position of being against this lease, it's me. People know where I am and where my vote was. I just don't see the will to actually override. And at a certain point, I wonder if you just have to acknowledge the political reality of where the votes are. That's.
How many days do we have?
We have
don't.
until
This is
April
it.
26th.
Well, we could hold a special meeting to convene. That is within our ability. We could put it on the agenda here at this meeting, correct? That's why I bring it up.
Next Tuesday is too soon.
Tuesday's Tuesday.
There is the council does have a finance meeting on April 18th. To be done on that same day, either before or after the finance and personnel meeting. I understand in speaking with Karen that we have the election on the 23rd, so that week is out. This would be the week before.
We wanna come back to this topic at another time. Does anybody feel that they want this put up to be voted on?
I mean. Struggling with this.
I'm not
Oh.
struggling with it, process
Yeah.
matters, I like to see
Yeah, I
it put
think
up,
we need to bring this
I'm
forward.
not struggling with it at all.
The people want us to
People
bring this
want it.
forward. Like, it's not about what we want. It's not been about what I want this whole time. I can't not. I've been really struggling with this because I know where I think the votes are gonna go, but we're gonna let this roll out. I want a motion to bring this.
So we need to set up a meeting for that after, the finance meeting.
We can do it prior to.
Yeah, let's see, the finance meeting is at 4. You know, depending on whether the same people show up, it could get long, but you know, if we make it it's not gonna take long, so we can make it at 3 o'clock.
We're gonna be packing whole stuff and getting deliveries and election equipment out, filling the trucks and like the whole election department is crazy.
It's gonna be that much more crazy, because we gonna do this.
Karen,
What's, Megan, what time, if we have to do it on a Thursday before, and during the day or evening, I mean, we're gonna be up and at 'em Friday morning.
Is that scheduled for Thursday and Friday? I mean,
We're deep in-
maybe the meeting should be called for a different day that's convenient for the election.
I don't have a good answer for that, honestly. I mean, it's a lot. We're already, deep in election preparations now. It's every day closer to the election, it's gonna be more intense and more work.
Well,
I do have a suggestion. Because everybody else has heard, it's not gonna be popular. I'm not here to be popular, here to be practical. Process does matter. I'm not all right with limiting 2 people. Cause I think we need to adjust that to anything, but I think that it's not unreasonable. That everyone who has been heard, everyone who has come up and been recorded, we've recorded their testimony, right? So we don't have to do all the frequent flyers. If you've already recorded their testimony, just like you know all ours, we don't have a lot to say. We just get right to the vote. And limit that, it won't be popular.
I think that just has to be specified ahead of time and pointed out to the public ahead of time if you're limiting.
I think the public understands that this has been going on since October, and we've heard from some of the same people 5 or 6 times. And
No,
not
but I
to
don't-
negate anything that they say, but I think it's at this point, to our colleagues' point, it's kind of repetitious now. And so we're here taking any more public testimony or any public, they're not
I
gonna,
think,
You still have the same issue. And Ellen is right, and we could notify the public when we notify them at the meeting. That due to time constraints, that the meeting would be limited to 1 hour. And will only be able to accommodate a few speakers.
I think,
I think that's fair.
I
Maybe
think if, it'll work. I'm personally. As a longtime spectator to the various public meetings, various bodies. I think that the public comment period in the meetings is probably one of the most sacred portions of it. I can understand that it gets repetitious, but I would never deny anybody their right to speak to the topic. That's just, if we're going to have a public meeting, if we're going to have, I'm willing to sacrifice my time to hear people out. That's just my 2 cents.
I think there's a compromise. I think that, the one thing that no one can accuse us of is we haven't listened or heard people out. I think that there's some middle ground, and absolutely no, hell no, would we like pick 2 people? But I think that everybody knows that it's time to be an adult about it right now. We have other business for the county to take on. And I think that the chairperson that night, that's at his discretion. I don't think he limits it to 2 people. I think we give the advance notice, like Councilman Shaw was saying. And I think we let our yays be our yays. Just go ahead and get to the vote. It's going to be a quick vote. Nobody's really gonna change their, because we're already given, they want to vote on it. We're giving a vote, compromise. Nobody gets everything. And that includes the public. You can get everything. At some point, it becomes unfair. And because I don't throw rocks in hot hands or anything like that. I throw names out or whatever, for better or for worse. But whatever their content is, I get people like, I'm not gonna stand there and let Luke come spew stuff about our election. I don't care what public comments you allow or that you have. It has to be, you'll be fact checked right there, you're gonna be stopped.
So
I think there should be a time limit on it.
Maybe give them
1
1
hour.
minute.
And let them, the quicker they speak, the more.
45 minutes is gonna be the open.
Well, these things are described to us by the administrative code in terms of the comment period, the prior notice, comment, time, without notice to comment time, and are these rules in our power to just change on a meeting by meeting basis?
The chairman has the right under the administrative code to limit
There's
this.
a little charter. so-
Try to limit discussion. And I'm not saying that we don't want to hear from them. I'm saying we've heard from them. They will give them a minute. Maybe it's not 3 minutes, maybe it's not 5 minutes. Because at some point, this thing's gonna move on. And even regardless of what this vote comes out, I don't think this issue is over. But that's not our concern at this point. But we should do the process. And we should get through it. If you're gonna limit it to an hour, if you're gonna notify them ahead, let them get, hey, they're gonna fuss ahead. When you say, hold on, you're limited, that's okay. Whatever, I get it. But at some point, you have to be practical.
So if the meeting starts at 4 for the finance meeting and you want to do it before 4 o'clock, when would you want to do it? 3 or 2?
I would suggest that the chair and the clerk could schedule something, we could handle the logistics outside of this. If the clerk could,
Well, I mean, since you brought it up.
It
When
makes
you-
more
when you-
sense to do 3, Counselor.
I-
We'll rate
If
it
you
up
wanna do an
personal
hour, but
finance.
limited. Yeah, that way you know you got a finite cutoff. I think.
Yeah. So what time?
I agree with 3, and I agree with nobody has to call in to say we want 5 minutes, because we're not gonna get 5.
Well, we could limit that as well to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it benefits the public. More of the public can speak when you don't do the 5 minutes.
Right, well, with 10 minutes left, whatever, you'll have to say, okay. You could say that even at the beginning of the meeting, that at 10:02, we would take a vote,
And
at whenever the hour is, 10:02.
I think since January, since we started this, we have been very fair. And letting people speak. A lot have spoke over their limit, and I let them go. Because it's such an emotional, important subject. But, when you look at this agenda and things are on their table, then it's all right to table things. When you see what we had gone through with this issue, and now we're at a 4-3. And I've said it enough in the paper. I said enough to the news media, watch the vote. 4-3, we lose. The people that were for the lease or against the lease. 5-2. The lease loses. If it's a 4-3 vote, it should be over with. We have to govern and we're not doing that. We have a budget that we should be working on. That's gonna be tricky. We have to move on. And you know, we'll give them their last chance and as far as I'm concerned, either way it goes with me. But if we're gonna have a meeting, it's limited time speaking. Let's get it over with so we can move on.
So what time did you say, Jim?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
And I'll get my apologies in right now to you, Karen and Megan, but this is like really, really necessary.
Absolutely. You're fine. I'm just trying to make sure we don't have people in the hallway when we have election equipment out there. And we have to limit access to.
That's okay, you weren't here, we had all the mail, all the bags piled in this room, trying to have meetings.
Oh, yeah.
working.
If you wanna take over.
No,
No, she knows what I'm talking about.
I'm new.
Something that are less contentious.
I'd like to call a personnel meeting to order. First on the
You got
agenda
5
here,
minutes.
number 1, ordinance number 13, 2024. 2024 appointed official salary ordinance, director of administration. We had our first read in February 13th of 24. We tabled it. Thoughts? Ready to move forward or?
Unfortunately, table, we really want to move it forward. I really want to move it forward. You got the talent here, right now, he's working for what we have budgeted for. But I won't spend a lot of time on it, I think that we've already went around that back and on why.
Yeah, I would add one thing, Ellen. I was thinking deeply about your comments the last meeting. It's the idea of somebody taking a job and not getting paid. In this particular instance, it's always possible to retain the person under their current job. Right? People can get paid. People can, right? This is not and granted, we should be looking at the position and not particular, but like it is within the power of the administration to simply not fill the seat. And if people are, you know, like the idea that you would work without pay. I always kind of wondered about this, like when we're looking at approving pay for the public defenders. I think it's always possible to get the pay approval first and then hire the person. I push back on this idea that if somebody's not getting paid, like it's always been possible to fill a position after you've had approval for the wage. And so I guess I just want to address that because like I thought about that as a critique and I just push back on that. I don't think that is a fair critique. Again, we only have so many levers to pull to ensure that our spending priorities are heard. The administration would like to put forward some sort of compromise as to what how we're dealing with DEI and the homeless money. I'm more than happy to entertain that conversation, but until that point, we've got to draw a line in the sand to make sure that these voices are heard too. That's all.
Anyone else? Number 2, ordinance number 21, 2024, appointed official salary ordinance, full-time assistant public defender. The other first read, 3/26/24.
Can I address that?
Certain.
Do we have anyone for the public defenders here? Maybe if you guys wanted to offer this advice, the first 2 that we had, I think that were approved back in February. The item was given to us as a previous ordinance item, and maybe Karen knows more about this topic. Was simply the amount was struck out and written in with the new amount for what that position should get paid. my first inclination of looking at the document made it look like that position was going from like 68,000 to 76,000. And my first response was, oh my gosh, this is a big increase. I was really happy to find as I went through the PD budgeted salaries for each of these positions, all of these are at or under budget. And it just might be helpful if that information is presented to us when we're getting these, to tell the full true story that like, no, this position's actually a grand under budget. Just something to offer. It makes the medicine go down a little easier when you get the full story and realize that we are living within our budget on these items.
Number 3, ordinance number 22, 2024, appointed official salary ordinance full-time assistant public defender. This also was first read on 3/26/24. Number 4, possible reappointment of Dean. Oh, I'm sorry.
I dropped my folder, so position 003-600-003, we're gonna pull that right now. The person was gonna take that job, went elsewhere. So, one of the two we're gonna keep on, and the 003-600-003.
Which one is that, number 3 then?
I dropped my folder, so. 006 is still in, 003's out. Okay,
Number 2, ordinance number 21 is out.
21. Where'd they go? Just out of curiosity, within the county or out of the counties? Okay, that's all right.
He dropped his folder.
No, I just was curious if we're losing talented people.
Does, right.
Thank you.
And we had a job offer and it was accepted and they decided to go elsewhere. Well,
Number 4, possible reappointment of Dean Curtis, Erie County Conservation District, term to expire December 31st, 2027. This was put forward by the county executive. We tabled it at our last meeting on 3/26/24. This would be Mr. Curtis's 3rd term as farmer director. I don't know if.
True. We have Tom McClure from the Erie County Conservation District to kind of answer any questions. We did pass out a flyer, a couple of them on the procedures and one from the State Conservation District that Mr. McClure can speak a little bit more to. But I know some questions were raised last time over the state law that Attorney Talarico brought up. So we have Tom here to kind of give a little bit more info on that.
Sure. Well, my name is Tom McClure, District Manager of the Conservation District, and thanks for the opportunity tonight. So Erie County Conservation District, we're one of 66 conservation districts in the Commonwealth. And some, about 50%, are independent conservation districts like we are. The other 50% are a county department, but all follow procedures when it comes to nominating directors for their boards. And those procedures I laid out in a one-page summary sheet. So I didn't want to turn out the 20 pages for you, but that procedure is followed by each conservation district when vacancies occur. And so it's an integral process with what we call nominating organizations across Erie County, where the county of Erie reaches out to those nominating organizations. Those folks bring back nominations to the county, and those are decided on and approved or appointed or reappointed. And I would like to say as well that, directors, really don't get, good footing until about their second term. Just because there's a lot of programs, that we administer at the Conservation District, that really need a lot of more experience and time. We do have a diverse set of programs there, and directors really get comfortable once they get their second term. Longevity in Conservation District is not unique to Erie County. There are directors all across the Commonwealth that serve for multiple terms and even decades. And so really the State Conservation Commission, which is our governing body, does not have a provision for term limits. And there would be mechanisms in place that if a director did not work out for our board, that there would be procedures to remove or work them through another nomination process. So that's a little bit of background of what we are and this procedure. And I entertain really any questions that you might have about that. I can speak to both Mr. Curtis and Mrs. Leonard. We have a great board. I have a great board that does a lot for the Conservation District and our programs, and they are both good contributors to what we do, and the board itself works as a team. And I will also say that this nomination process this year adhered to all those steps and guidelines and procedures outlined by the State Conservation Commission.
Out of the 66 counties, how many of these boards are imposing term limits? Do you know that?
I did hear of one that York County has term limits, but it's not a common thing.
So it's only one out of the 66
I believe
counties?
so. I would have to follow up on that for you.
Yeah, I would disagree with the opinion that that the state law does not provide for terms. It provides that each member shall serve for a 4-year term. And and they get an extra 6 months while the county and the commission decide on who should fill that, to nominate another person. So I think with this lady who's the director or the administrative officer, the way she's reading the statute is that it doesn't address term limits. There's no language in there that directs term limits. It just says the term shall be 4 years and an extra 6 months. So it really leaves it for the counties to fill it in one way or the other. Which would mean that we'd have to change the administrative code and come to, she also is concerned about, and this gentleman sort of implies that that they have a good board, a good working board. They've been around for a long time, and she says that she's speaking, of course, on behalf of this one commission, that you should have directors for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But of course, when you decide to have 7 directors, all of their terms end at different times, just like council, while other people are coming in.
Yeah, so you don't
So,
lose the.
so there is experience on the board. With each appointment, or with the passing of each year, you get a new member and a member that's been there for 4 years, or council agrees to 2 terms or whatnot. You do have that experience on the board. It continues.
What's your advice on how we should go about it? If we wanted to impose a term limit, it feels like we should be voting on future term limits, not necessarily on this appointment.
Right. Well, it depends. I mean, I don't. That's what I need to get from the administration. I need to get the names of the people that are on there when they were first nominated. So I could tell how many times how long they've been there. And I think that, you know, we don't have to necessarily appoint these members for an extra 4 years, but maybe for this year. And then amend the code so that it doesn't go into effect until next year.
These would be second and third terms. For these folks.
Second, well, I mean, I need that.
Yeah, we can give you all of them.
Yeah, give me that, and then I'll put the language in to amend the code. And council could decide when it gets on the agenda, which we could have with the,
Amend the code in which way? To establish limits? Or to delineate that there are limits?
Extend the limit.
well, to extent, well, council would decide at that time how you wanted it.
I'm not in favor of establishing any kind of term limits on the board members, just myself. I think it's a great detriment to organizations that, we set aside people that are otherwise doing terrific work, due to time. I think this body itself has been, hampered at times with not having it to the point, and that's why I'm glad that we have you with your long history of service with the council, because there's a lot of that experience that's lost. And if we're talking about establishing term limits for boards, we all know how hard it is to get these people in the first instance. And if people want to serve well for 12, 18 years and they're continuing to contribute, not just showing up, I'm more than happy to keep them there.
Well, there's the flip side of that story, which is why every authority and board that I'm aware of, and I've always, or ever have been aware of, and any bylaws that I've ever written, everybody has terms. It's more democratic. Now, you do lose experience. Pierre Leon was here for 42 years. I'm sure he knew better than anybody how to run county government. There were lots of people that wanted new people. So, but that's a decision that you could make. I'll prepare the language. You could decide, oh, I want this, I don't want that. That's up to you guys.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily being an opponent for term limits as much as I mean, I was trying to establish whether or not we even have the right to pause this to look at term limits because it's on the agenda. Like, we don't really have enough time to do that, do we? Like,
Yes,
I
we
mean,
could do, sure we can.
like if we make
I
that
mean,
decision, like, we don't really.
Well,
Is the county solicitor given their opinion as to whether the state language establishes limits other than?
He's been on vacation since this came up, but I'd be happy to get him that or have his opinion about that here.
it's not a question of an opinion. The opinion is just about what the law is. Whether council wants to have terms or not, that's council's decision.
Yeah.
So you could do whatever you want as far as terms, knowing full well that as a matter of experience, everybody has terms and directors and terms. So that doesn't mean that there can't be exceptions to continue them. I think that the directors at the Civic Center Authority. I mean, those are 4-year terms, 2 max. I think that those guys served 5 for 20 years.
Yeah.
And council never said anything. So it's not like council can not acknowledge the importance of a particular director or their particular circumstances and take that into consideration. That's done quite often. But you want to have a law beneath it that you could work around.
How many names are put forth, or they just put forth one name nominated?
Well, that's what I'm gonna ask this gentleman.
Because here's my experience with it, when they tried that crap with me on the planning thing, they said, oh, people have to take the administrative code said I had to take the nominations from the planning commission or whatever. And they sent me one name. And they said, she'll be a good planning commissioner. I didn't know her from a can of paint. I laughed. Said she won't be my planning.
Yeah, that was, another rule that came down
Crazy.
and what council did at that time was it said. And I had recommended that, it's their authority, it's council's authority. To appoint members, to make terms and things of that nature. And so the, council changed the law. But, and this is similar. Because it's nominating organizations that provide recommendations to council. And I wanted to ask this gentleman, who is a nominating organization? What is that?
So they're established and there's actually procedures to become a nominating organization. And I have my list of nominating organizations.
Tom, is your question, who was the nominating organization for these individuals?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think you can understand.
And so Erie County Farm Bureau, Erie County Extension, Erie County Association of Township Officials, Erie Crawford Co-op, Farm Service Agency, French Creek Council, Boy Scouts, League of Women Voters, Northwest PA Chapter of Trout Unlimited.
Okay, so could you, it says, the law says that the county. That's you guys, will notify the nominating organizations regarding the expiring terms. For the farmer and public directors.
Actually, it's spearheaded, the process is spearheaded by the county of Erie, not our agents.
Right, that's what I'm saying, I'm looking at.
Oh, I thought you were looking at me.
Yeah,
No, correct. It's the administration initiates that communication to the nominating organizations. And
they will do the nominating.
they will do the nominating, send those names back. And what has been done in prior administrations, back to, I have an example of the Grossman letter. That so-and-so is interested in being reappointed. And so at least gives that one name out there that, yes, this person's doing a good job. They're willing to serve again for another 4 years. And it gives the nominating organization another opportunity to include more names and add to the pool of folks who would be willing to serve in the future. Or maybe serve as an associate director, a non-voting member.
Right, and that is also gonna have to change. Because it's county council that should approve those, not the administration. So
Is that not what it is when it's on our agenda?
the appointments,
Yeah, the approval of them?
yeah, it just doesn't say it on this questionnaire. Okay, so you go back to the county and then the county executive brings it in front of us. Okay,
I think that collaboration
that's good.
is laid out in the codes, the administrative code. But yeah, we've had a difficulty in the past, trying to gain interest from not only folks in the farming community, but also the public community, more so in the ag community, to get those folks that are interested. And so when we do have a director, especially a farmer director, willing to serve and willing to be reappointed, the nominating organizations stand behind that.
Very good.
So I believe at this point, we want to get some language changed, some different numbers put out before we put actually each of these individuals.
And
past.
after I do that, I'll circulate it to council and make a look at it and the administration.
And my last comment on that is, thank you for the handout, but even this refers to repeatedly about terms, so.
Just for the record, so I read it, number 5, on the agenda, possible reappointment of Julie Leonard to the Erie County Conservation District, term to expire December 31st, 2027. Brought forward by the county executive and council tabled that on 3/26/24. And if there's anything else for the good of the order,
We took longer than 5 years.
so you. Motion adjourned.